Welcome, everybody, to Sports Shorts Daily. Ronnie Rance alongside Tommy Krysan. Today, we're presented by, of always, LeBear's Casino and the new Barstool Sportsbook. And TK joining us courtesy of Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. Today on Sports Shorts Daily, we're going to talk about, the end of an era, right? It had to happen. The Pelicans had won 7 in a row. The last 2 came against a very good Phoenix Suns team. They go on the road to Utah, get pounded last night. We'll tell you what happened in that one. But, hey, they get another chance against a good Utah team tomorrow night. So we've got the Pels come back to reality, but they're still at the top of the West. We've also got LSU football. A lot of people pounding the Tigers. If you want to get the line, get it now. It only seems like it's going up. Tigers are a 10.5-point favorite against Purdue. Saints 4-point favorite. Imagine that, Tommy. Saints a 4-point favorite against the Falcons. The battle of the and curious to see how many Saints fans are going to be in the Dome this weekend. Now that the Saints really have nothing to play for, we know Jameis Winston's not going to start. But we'll get into that. Also, Mike Leach, the passing of a legend. When we were on the air on Monday, we knew that it didn't look good, and then not long after. He left us yesterday officially. So we'll tell you some Mike Leach stories. End of an era over there at Mississippi State. What do they do next? Also, LSU basketball. They won last night. Didn't cover, though. They were a 13.5-point favorite against North Carolina Central. They won the game. We'll talk some LSU hoops. Some no more transfer portal news for the LSU Tigers that isn't necessarily good for the bowl game. And another mega Major League Baseball signing, another $300+ million player. They're giving these things away like it's Christmas time. Unbelievable. But we're presented not only by LeBear's Casino, but also the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. Don't forget, this is the best time of the year to make that little pilgrimage up to Natchitoches. Only a 2.5-hour drive from Baton Rouge. The Christmas lights are in full effect through the first of the year. Every Saturday during December, they have fireworks and bands and playing on the river. And you can go check out the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. Here's a little message from the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame.
Museum is located on the banks of the Cane River in historic downtown Natchitoches. Come check out the state's architectural marvel and stroll through the great Louisiana history of athletics. The best time to visit the museum is each summer during the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame induction weekend, where heroes of the past and present come to celebrate, honor, and party with the current Hall of Fame class. For more information on how you can be a part of these festivities, visit lasportshall.com.
All right, we apologize to all the epileptics out there.
Kept buffering on us right there. I'll address that.
Yeah, we got some people that might be seizing up a little bit. That don't send your complaints to Sports Shorts Daily. Keep it amongst yourself. Talk to your doctor at home. But anyway, we've got the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame Santa Super 7 auction going on right now, benefiting the museum that you saw. So you can go to lasportshall.com. A lot of cool stuff, especially if you're golfers, if you're a collector of sports memorabilia, if you love to eat. We've got some fantastic restaurants, got some great groups, private dinners, and specialty chefs tastings. Go to lasportshall.com, and help support the Hall of Fame. That auction ends this Friday, so a couple more days to go. All right, it's TK. So let's start at the top. First off, the big story around the country: Mike Leach is passing. Rarely does a Power 5 football coach who's active and the team's going to a bowl game, do they pass away? This is a giant story. It's a sad story. Only 61 years old, and I don't know. And look, Mike Leach. Love him, hate him. I don't know if anybody hates him, but I think there's a lot of people that were like believers in Mike Leach, and there were others that were always just, I don't get the guy. But the one thing is, I think 21 years of coaching, he made a bowl game 18 times. He was the national coach of the year twice. That's super impressive and still relevant today. Mississippi State better off than when he found the program, headed to a bowl game, beating their rivals, Ole Miss. And unfortunately, he tragically had a heart attack, stroke, whatever, over the weekend, and no longer with us. Just a sad deal because he was such an interesting, good guy.
Yeah, he really was, Ronnie. And first off, the last active SEC coach to die was Bo Ryan of LSU in '79. Hadn't coached a game yet, but a recruiting trip, plane went out over the ocean, never came back. Now, Joe Morrison of South Carolina died in the offseason, but South Carolina wasn't in the SEC yet. And then Randy Walker, a guy from Northwestern up in Chicago, died during a season one year. So this is very rare that the active coach. And, Mike Leach, he was different. He was unique. I mean, he was one of a kind, the whole bit. I mean, I enjoyed watching all the stuff yesterday, a lot of the clips and the tributes and the people who chimed in. And a friend of mine and a guy that Hal Mummy, appeared on the SEC network. And Dari Nokwa asked Hal Mummy, says, okay, they told the whole story, how they put it together, like you and I talked about on napkins and stuff at Iowa Wesleyan, a D3 school in Mount Pleasant, Iowa. And Dari asked Hal Mummy, said, what made the air raid, what made Leach special? And he came up with a great quote that I hadn't heard before. He said, Mike Leach and I were not afraid to coach without a net. Meaning they didn't care. They're fourth and 2 from our own 31. We're going to coach like we're going to make the first down, not worry about what happens if we don't. He coached without a net, and he told a great story how Leach, every player he ever recruited, he thought he was going to get. Hal said, we were at Kentucky. I remember Leach walking in my office saying, we're going to get Eli Manning. And Hal says, yeah, we are. And he goes, oh, yeah, we got it. It's wrapped up, done deal. Of course, that's just the way he approached things. But I think the fact that, Greg Sankey had a great interview on the SEC network, that you kind of never knew what you were going to get with Mike Leach when you started talking. And I think he had something that a lot of people don't have. Or, everybody has it at some moments, but not. He had perspective. He loved football. He's a big competitor. Hal Mummy said that. He wanted to win. He didn't care if they were, playing football on the napkins. He wanted to win. And he was a great competitor, but he also was a smart guy. He was an attorney. The candy corn thing is legendary. The neckties, he couldn't stand neckties. He wanted to meet the guy that invented them. I mean, he was an entertainer, to say the least, and a pretty darn good football coach. No question about that. Now, he's one win shy of being eligible for the College Football Hall of Fame, because to be eligible as a coach, you have to win 60% of your games, and he's at like 59.7. And of course, they don't know if they're gonna if they win the bowl game against Illinois, will that go to him? But they ought to waive it anyway and put him in the College Football Hall of Fame. Such a character. College football will miss Mike Leach. There's no question.
You mentioned the College Football Hall of Fame. If Mike Leach were alive and you would have given him that scenario, he'd be like, who cares? What difference does it make? I'm already dead. We saw that interview where he said that, like, how do you want to be remembered? He's like, it doesn't matter, but one of my family had so many one-liners and stuff like that. But I love because we're both fans of the Floribama. I love the fact that he loved the Floribama and made such a big deal about it at a press conference a few years back, raving about how it's one of his favorite places on earth and one of his favorite things to do. Just a down-home guy, a different kind of guy. Thing I enjoyed about him was that he was a bright guy who was interested in more than just what happened on the football field. And, not that there's anything wrong with that. If you're a fan and you're hiring a coach, you want him to be all encompassed and all consumed with, winning and football or baseball or basketball, whatever sport it is. But the fact that he could have success, particularly at lesser schools, he never was at the big dog school in whatever conference he was in. I mean, Texas Tech and Washington State, Mississippi State are all in the second half in the bottom tier of their conferences. And so, for him to have success in certain years, he had really big time success at those schools, was pretty incredible. And the fact that he enjoyed employed and was smart and educated about things outside of just football made him even more unique of a character. Byron's saying
the story Byron's pointing out is legendary. How he walked in to Leach's office and Leach was on the phone and I was just sitting there like, okay. Hour later, hang up and calls the guy back, and he talked for another half hour. And Riley finally goes, "Who the heck was that?" He goes, "The guy called the wrong number." But he talked to him for 90 minutes, So, that was a legendary story, about that. And, it's just unique and a funny guy. I've always liked him, and of course I got to meet him. I was lucky to do that. He was coaching at Texas Tech at the time I got to meet him. And I heard the stories, and he told the candy corn story when I was with him that night. But it was a group of us. But you heard that one, how he couldn't stand candy corn. It was awful. Why did it only comes around once a year? And why did they even do that?
Right. Right.
But he takes it a little further. And I guess the other big viral video was when the sideline reporter asked him about Sochi was getting married. He goes, "Oh, well, look, you got to get Trevor to have a meeting with me, and every female in your family is going to drive you nuts for the next year and a half. You got to go elope." I mean, that thing is like 20 million views or something.
Right.
It's unbelievable. So he's a guy that's going to be missed. I thought Lane Kiffin's comments, that, hey, he beat us the last game he ever played. He walked off the field as a winner. And Lane said he's glad for that. And, college football would not be the same without Mike Leach. You talk about him not being in the big cities. And he said, hey, it's easy to recruit in Mississippi because the food's so good. He goes, them other places they didn't have any good food. He goes in Mississippi. He also bragged about the food in New Orleans a lot, too. He liked the city of New Orleans.
Yeah. It's a sad story. What direction Mississippi State's going with an interim coach for the bowl game, obviously one of their assistants, but then, what is the direction of that program? Oftentimes in things like this or a program that's having success where a coach leaves, a lot of times, especially in a situation like this where everybody's so emotional, everybody's in a feel-good mood about Leach. A lot of times, especially if the interim coach does a good job this month and if they win, you're going to see players and you're going to see fans say, keep coach so-and-so. I'm curious to see where Mississippi State goes with this, because they could really, if they don't go get a good coach or a big time something, they could take a giant step back from Ole Miss, and they could take a giant step back in a conference that is all about the now. I mean, with the transfer portal and everything, Mississippi State was relevant this year, but they could be irrelevant next year with now a coach leaving them, passing away, everybody, scrambling for the hills. You've got all kinds of things could happen. Do you think, there was a lot of conversation, and at this point it's probably just speculation. Deion Sanders, just for the sake of fun, that's what this show's about, just to have throwing stuff against the wall. Deion Sanders is at Colorado. We've seen coaches change their mind before. Now, not necessarily a week or two later, but we've seen them change their mind in a couple days later. Does Deion Sanders become somebody that Mississippi State goes after? If Deion Sanders were still available, do you think, had he not taken that Colorado job, do you think Mississippi State would ever go to Deion Sanders? It seems on paper like an odd fit, but he was beloved in that state. He did such a good job in that state. I think it could be a sell, but.
Well, here's the thing, Ronnie. They have an interim AD now because John Cohen left and went to Auburn. So they have an interim AD. The team voted to play because they think Mike Leach would have wanted them to play. And, of course, they're playing in Tampa, and there's a pirate ship in the end zone for the Buccaneer games. The Pirates, and Mike was big on the pirate thing. So, so they're going to play against Illinois in that bowl game. But to answer your question, if Deion Sanders had not taken the Colorado job, I think they'd be all over that. Now, would Deion leave Colorado and come back to Mississippi State? I mean, you never say never, but I think that would be kind of wild and crazy. But Mississippi State, I don't know, promoted Zach Arnett from within the staff's going to be the interim coach. I think a lot of people would want that job, but it's going to be an odd situation going forward, especially you throw in the portal, you throw in the NIL. Mississippi State's in a big holding pattern. They're circling the airport like numerous times now, hoping they don't run out of fuel before they make some decisions. Okay, so it'll be something to watch, especially because it involves the SEC West Division and the SEC. So a lot of things are going to happen, and we'll see what happens in the coming weeks.
I know when someone passes away, it's not important, but they are in a pickle. They're in a pickle right now because right now is the transfer portal time. Right now is recruiting. I mean, they're just in a pickle. They got to get their athletic director first because we know ads are going to want to hire their guy, and these things are going to have to move at a lightning pace that they probably aren't ready for or want to. And John Cohen said the reason, told Skip Bertman, as you mentioned, I talked about it on Hold the Rope, is that, the reason he left Mississippi State was because, one, he has more money, but it was also about just a better setup at Auburn. They're more prepared in the NIL world to fundraise and do all the things necessary to basically buy players. I mean, all NIL is legalized paying players. It's just a loophole for, hey, we're not going to give everybody the same amount of money. We can't afford to do it at every school. So the schools that can do it, pay your players. And Mississippi State knows they're going to be, John Cohen knew, we don't have the financial support that Auburn does, and we're going to fall behind in the SEC. And now that might be at a rapid pace, unfortunately, with
this. And Ronnie, believe me, when the thing I'm about to say makes sense, and it's coming from nowhere but 10 seconds ago in my mind. Perhaps you bring Hal Mummy in and say, okay, look, you're just here temporarily to guide things through until we get some things settled. Now, I swapped several text messages with Hal Mummy yesterday, and that was not a topic at all. Full disclosure there. But, kind of like the Astros at first brought in Dusty Baker to kind of be the old guy to come in and soothe things and help a smooth thing. Of course, it had skyrocketed. So, I don't know if that would be something that would happen, because they got to have a signing class, early signing period, December 21. There's a lot of things decisions have to be made with regard with football, and Zach Arnett and the other coaches on that staff. One of them is a guy I know, Mason Miller, who was on the staff at Southeastern back in the day. He's like the line coach. So they got a lot of stuff to do. So it's a precarious, unfortunate situation, especially due to circumstances for Mississippi State football.
All right, TK, that was the big topic around the world of sports, and thoughts and prayers go out to the Leach family and the Bulldog family. Moving on, the LSU and Saints line up now to 10.5, and with everything going on with Purdue and their changeover with coach, maybe this line continues to go up, do you think, by kickoff?
It's not. I don't think it'll still be 10.5. I think it's going to go up. How far, I don't know. But, you got the situation with the Purdue coaching staff and which of their players are going to play. Jeray Jenkins not going to play for LSU, going to get ready for the NFL stuff. So, you got a lot of that. We talked about this the other day on Sports Shorts Daily, and I'm sure we'll talk about it on Sports Shorts Radio this Saturday. But, if you're gambling, you like to bet, and many of us do, you got to be really careful or make that wager, $10, $20, not the 100 or 200, because there's going to be a lot of unknown and uncertainty going into any and all these bowl games. And, and here's the thing that I think, bowl games the last couple of years, the attendance has been awful in 80% of the bowl games. Okay. I think due to NIL, transfer portal, coaching carousel, you name it, attendance is going to be even worse this year. Plus, people are holding on to their money in today's economy. I mean, a lot of business guys I've talked to in Baton Rouge have said, they think people have some money, but they're holding on to it. So you're going to make that trip to the whatever bowl or the whomever bowl. And we're going to hold on to our money. So that'll be a big side story as well going into these bowl games. But, LSU, it's a chance for Brian Kelly to work his guys out and get some guys better. And these guys are, get better and become a better football team. So we're going to have to see what Stephen Miller is saying. Brom is going to coach the bowl game for Purdue. Okay, well, that's a factor. Okay, if he wasn't doing that, it's different. So
the one thing about LSU and the transfer portal, I'm okay with guys coming out and saying that they're going to they're going to go pro. But like, what's the benefit to Jeray Jenkins not playing in the bowl game? I mean, unless he's academically ineligible or something, and they're covering it up, and and he can't play. But like, if he's eligible, he's a wide receiver. I mean, like, look, you can get hurt running sprints and lifting and on the squat rack. You can hurt your knee if so in your preparations for the pro draft, you can get hurt. You're a wide receiver. It's definitely with not an injury history of note. Like, you've had a really good year. Like, go out there and play in a big bowl game and help your team win. Like, I just don't get that. Like, I just don't get that. And I get it, right? It started with Leonard Fournette, and it's just going to continue. But like, Jeray Jenkins is not going to be a first round pick. I don't know what Jeray Jenkins is going to be as far as if he gets drafted and at what point, but it's not going to be real high. And Jeray Jenkins, quite frankly, should just be happy he's a main part of the team, and he's been such a successful guy. And instead, like, somebody's in his ear telling him crap. You got all these agents and people back in Gina, whatever, that are blowing him up, telling him he's better than he is. Like, dude, just go out and help your team win a ball game. Like you mentioned, why the attendance is bad, Tommy. The attendance is bad because the fans know the players don't give a shit. Quite frankly, that's it. Like, if you don't care, then I'm not care. I'm not going to spend my money to travel to Boca Raton or Vegas or El Paso, Texas, or Dallas, Texas, or Shreveport or whatever to go watch you play. And too many times bad weather. And if you don't care, if it's not even worth the players to want to play, then why should I care? And I think and also we put so much emphasis on the playoffs. And it's only going to get worse when they expand the playoffs to 12 teams. All the other bowls are going to be even more insignificant. And so, like, we care. Oh, we're not in the play. Look at me. I didn't go to Atlanta because we knew if we beat Georgia, we had no shot of making the playoffs. So for me, when they lost to A&M, it was like, I don't know if I don't have to go to Georgia to work or the game this year. I don't think I'm going to go. And quite frankly, I bet on Georgia -7. I bought it down to 17, and so I thought both Bulldogs were going to win anyway. And so, like, that's how fans are feeling. It's like, well, we don't have a chance to make the playoffs. Oh, well, the players don't care about this New Year's bowl game, so I don't care about it. And it's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better.
I agree with you. It's a very cloudy picture. Okay, if it's not in focus, we'll use that term. So, and I don't know if this is good for college football. College football is a big time thing, multi-billion-dollar business. But with all of the layers that are involved here, I think you're going to see TV ratings down. I think you're going to see attendance down, and coaches are going to be able to take the guys that want to play. And it started with Fournette. Christian McCaffrey also skipped the bowl game with Stanford. So, there's others. It's not just Leonard Fournette. And now, you got guys from Texas, San Antonio that are not going to play in the whatever bowl because they're getting ready for the draft. Line up with your teammates one more time. Ronnie, I know you would agree with me on this. I mean, if I could line up with my teammates, one more time and play baseball, it would be awesome. Of course, it'd be ugly to do it now, but I would, if I could do anything, I'd want to line up with my teammates, my catcher, my shortstop, and let's go try to get a guy out. But these guys just view it differently.
Here's the thing. It's a different conversation if you are a surefire early first round pick. If you're somebody, I remember when McCaffrey and Fournette and them did it. If you're somebody that's a lock top 10 pick, top 15 pick, whatever, and that's life-changing money for you and your family and all that kind of stuff. And basically you're at that point, you're holding on to a lottery ticket, and it's just simply, got to make it to May to cash that ticket. And I don't want to leave the house. I don't want to have anybody else hold this ticket. I don't want anything to happen that can help me, But here's the thing that we've learned. Two things. One, and it's a bad thing. The NFL could care less whether you play or not play. Look at our boy from Dunham High School and LSU, Stingley, right? didn't play. Chase didn't play. None of it mattered. Okay, none of it mattered. These guys were still super high draft picks. So there's no incentive for these guys to play that are the high draft picks, that are the first round pick talents, the lock first round pick talents. It doesn't hurt their stock. It doesn't help their stock if they play in a game. That's a different conversation from a guy who, A, is he even going to get drafted at all, and B, maybe helps his stock just a little bit if you go out there and have a big bowl game. It's the last thing the scouts see on tape prior to you running a 40-yard dash and jumping over a line as far as you can. So I hate it. Now, with the NIL world, if you're a guy like Jeray Jenkins and, you can help LSU, Jeray Jenkins helps LSU if he plays in that bowl game, no doubt about it. Hey, Jeray, can we pass the hat? I don't know. What's hey, Jeray, we'll give you $10,000 to play in the bowl game. Did that conversation happen? Did it not happen? Did Jeray say, I want 100? And they went, well, we're not going to give you 100, but we'll give you 15. I don't know, but I would think if I was Jeray, I would have had that. Before I said no, I would have had that conversation. Everything's got a value. You're willing to do anything if there's a certain number. Now, maybe we can't agree on that number, but there's a certain number. And so I'm just curious if that conversation ever happened. LSU hoops won last night, Tommy. I think they're 9-1. Is that the correct record?
They're correct. They're 9-1. Last night they won by a score of 67-57 against North Carolina Central.
The North Carolina Central fell to 5-6. They had the line was 13.5. LSU was a 13.5 point. They did not cover. I'll say this: I made my first LSU basketball bet of the year. I took North Carolina Central plus 13.5. And for the record, I plan on sticking with the theory. I think this team is not very good. I think they're going to be awful in the SEC tournament. In the SEC, their schedule has been extremely weak. So I'm not falling for the 9-1 record. I am going to take every team that LSU plays for the next four games.
Saturday.
Yeah. So this Saturday coming up, they've got Winthrop. Winthrop comes in 5-6. We don't know the line. My assumption is that the line is going to be pretty similar, right around a 13.5, something like that. But I plan on. I told myself 5 games in a row, no matter what, I'm going to take the other way against LSU basketball. So I'm 1-0. I got 4 more to go. And we'll see. I'm going to wait till they get into SEC play. If they really are as bad as I think they are, then the lines will start adjusting themselves. Right now, they're getting a little bit of the benefit of the doubt playing these poor teams, and they're favored and stuff. And I think it just is what it is. They got to get better players. They got to get their hands dirty. We know Will Wade was willing to get his hands dirty. They got to get a better plan off the court on how to get in and get some of these stud players. Murray State players are not going to get it done in the SEC. Another $300+ million player, Tommy, in baseball. And here's my advice. If you're a parent out there and you got kids playing baseball, tell them to try harder. Correa signs a 13-year, $350 million deal. People were kind of laughing at him last year thinking, what an idiot. He went to the Twins on a little small deal, but he had an opt-out after the first year. He saw the market. He opted out, and he hit .291 last year with 22 homers for the Twins. Just signed a 13-year, $350 million deal with the San Francisco Giants. Same contract, by the way, that Bryce Harper signed a couple years ago. It just shows you the money. The economy may be in a weird spot, but Major League Baseball ain't, Tommy.
Well, you're worth with somebody who will pay you, and Correa's got a lot of talent. Tremendous glove, arm. He gets the job done at the plate. But he's got a bad attitude. That's why Houston didn't worry about losing him. Plus, they knew they had that guy coming up that's really good. That's just some mind-boggling numbers. We keep seeing them, and I remember years ago we said, "When's this going to stop? They're going to quit doing this." Well, it doesn't look like it's going to stop. They're going to keep doling out the $300+ million contracts, and he's not going to play 10 years in San Francisco. but that's what you got to do. And Major League Baseball, you're right. The economy is what it is, but Major League Baseball doesn't have any problems with money.
From a first pick in the draft in 2012, Correa has lived up to that draft status, that stock for sure. Fred McGriff going to the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, reaction to the crime dog, former Atlanta Brave. It's weird how Major League Baseball does it, right? They don't have a certain number of people that they put in the Hall of Fame every year. Some years you have one, some years you might have five, but your reaction to Fred McGriff?
Well, the numbers back it up. I mean, he's worthy of being in the Hall of Fame. He wasn't that great interview guy, or, he was never like the World Series MVP and, all of that. But he was consistent over a long period of time. Very productive guy. He could hit the baseball. I think he's a few home runs shy of 500. I think he's got 494 or something like that. So, no, Fred McGriff, I have no problem with him getting into the Hall of Fame. The crime dog, as he's known. And everybody kind of remembers some of them goofy TV commercials selling the baseball tapes with Tommy Mansky or whatever. So, but hey, I think he's a Hall of Fame player. And when you read all the stuff about him, it kind of validated that in my mind.
Did you see the story about Tom Mansky of how it went down? Great story. So Tom Mansky was a guy that Fred McGriff met while in the minor leagues. He was doing lessons and stuff like that over in Florida. And somebody said, you ought to go see this guy. And he worked out with him one time or a couple times, maybe, or whatever. Well, he makes it to the major leagues. He's doing well. Tom Mansky hits him up and says, hey man, would you help me out? Would you do this video? And we just want to film you saying something, no big deal, whatever. And Fred McGriff, being a good guy, says, yeah, I want to help you, no problem. So that Tom Mansky flies up to, I believe it was Chicago where Fred was at the time. He flies up to Chicago and, films, they go to this little Little League field in town. Fred puts on the hat, films the little thing he says. And then, they got some kids they picked up locally that, go throw the ball around the horn, do a couple drills, whatever the case may be. And that was it. Fred doesn't think anything of it. And then, I don't think he got paid. I think he just did it as a favor to Tom Mansky. And then he's like, the crazy thing is for the next 10, 20 years, 10 plus years, the thing ran on TV, and I'd be in the clubhouse all the time and guys would be making fun. The commercial would pop up on the TV, whatnot. And I would love to know the like a E30 on the Tom Mansky video to find out how much money Tom Mansky paid. I also heard that he had a friend at ESPN, and ESPN, remember, still in the 80s and 90s, it wasn't the monster that it's become. And he had a friend in there that worked that grandfathered him on some deal for airtime where these late night spots and these holes, where they weren't unsold. They would sell them these rotate. They sold it to him real cheap. And then I think also maybe Tom Mansky did a little deal where, hey, every tape sold, they got a cut, So he got these commercials super cheap. He wasn't paying these mega rates. He had partnered with ESPN, and he had a friend that hooked him up with some special arrangement that nobody else got. And I'd love to know how much money Tom Mansky made on those tapes.
Well, we got to see if they'll. It may come to be now that McGriff's in, and they're getting a lot of conversation, just like you and I are having now, and we'll have to see. So that'll be interesting.
All right, he's Tommy Krysan. I'm Ronnie Rance. TK, tell us real quick about Tremonti's. I know you'll be over there on Friday.
I'll be over there on Friday. Gift cards, gift baskets, all your holiday catering, the prime rib, the brisket, the turkey, the ham, the side dishes, tremendous selection of wine, whiskey, bourbon, all the rums, the vodkas. Go to Tremonti's Meat and Seafood on Jefferson Highway, right down the street from Parkview Baptist Church and School. Go to Tremonti's.com. That's the website. Or connect on Facebook and Instagram. Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, and I'll be out there Friday morning for another edition of Sports Sorts Daily.
By the way, speaking of Tremonti's, they actually have a gift basket in our Hall of Fame auction right now that you can bid on at lasportshall.com, our Santa Super 7 auction that ends in a couple days. It's a gift basket, has a bottle of Caymus wines, got two really nice ribeyes and baked potatoes and some other things in there as well. So it's a perfect like date night gift basket for the holidays, and we'll send it to you, deliver it to you, whatever. It's probably about a $250 value that right now I think you can get it. The bid is like $100 or something. So go to Santa Super 7 online auction at lasportshall.com. For Tommy Krysan, I'm Ronnie Rance. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you Friday for more Sports Shorts Daily presented